Pam Golding Properties will be marketing a broad selection of properties in Spain. Chris Immelman, who's MD of Pam Golding International, joins us now for a look at offshore investment with property. Good morning to you, Chris. This Spanish story sounds interesting, and I read here that Spain now has a law which gives you automatic residence in Spain if you spend more than 500,000 euros on a property. They obviously want high net worth individuals to come and buy property.
Yeah, morning. Indeed, they've been talking about this legislation for a while, and finally was promulgated about 2-3 months ago, where it now enables foreigners, i.e. non-Spanish citizens, to acquire a property in Spain for a minimum of 500,000 euros, and which will then entitle such a purchaser to residency in Spain, which gives you automatic Schengen visa rights, which is obviously quite attractive to South Africans and others, mainly Russians and Chinese, I believe.
So what sort of appetite do you think there will be from South Africans, and to what extent would this be for a high net worth individual, a place to go on holiday, or an investment for the future?
Yeah, no, I think the appetite is good. You know, we've come off a lot of work that we've done recently as the Pam Golding Group in the Seychelles and Mauritius, where we've moved a lot of people there and sold them properties there off the back of a residency as well in Mauritius and Seychelles. But the residency component in Spain is just so much more attractive because it does give you access to Europe via the Schengen visa. So the appetite has been good. We've tested it just recently in the market, and we've got a really strong response from it. So the challenge for us is to not only to try and find you a property in Spain, but to make sure that we find you a decent yielding property. So we've set up associations there with real estate companies, as well as lawyers and other tax structuring companies, to enable you to do a very easy transaction, and we will find you a property that has its own integrity and yields good returns. So the early response has been very good.
Chris, it's Gugu here. From a regulatory perspective, how do you handle some of the challenges between the two countries?
There's not much in terms of regulatory challenges, because once as long as you meet the threshold of the South African Reserve Bank, you can take out X amount of money, which is now 4 million rand per person. As long as it's under that threshold, you're fine. And then from a Spanish part, we have set up associations there with legal people and structuring people to make it easy and simple for you to go. We will set it up from here. We will set up the appointments from here. You will go from here and you will meet those people, and they will make the applications on your behalf, which actually is quite simple. So I've just come back from there now. I was there about 3 weeks ago, where I set up the final associations, particularly in Spain. We're busy doing it in Portugal as well now, incidentally. And it's quite seamless.
What you mentioned Portugal. Where else are South African property agencies operating? Because you'd think in Europe at the moment, perhaps Europe at any time, there have always been opportunities, but South African mindset and the African mindset has been isolationist and perhaps not really even considered the opportunities that are available.
You're talking about other places in Africa?
No, other places in Europe.
Yeah. So Europe, I mean, our stronghold has always been London. I mean, it's been very strong over the last 10, 15 years. The Pam Golding Group has done an enormous amount of sales, London sales to South Africans. In fact, our London counterparts called Savills, which is, you probably know them, one of the world's big real estate companies. They're out here for a week at the end of this month, 2 days in Joburg and 2 days in Cape Town, where we're bringing another host of London properties to exhibit to South Africans here. So that's been the strength. So the London market continues to be the favourites among South Africans to purchase. I mean, we've set up associations in the rest of Europe, particularly in Italy and in France, but that's not necessarily to sell South African properties. So our associations there have been strong in us selling Mauritian and Seychelles property to French, particularly French and Italians. So from a South African point of view, where the South Africans are buying, we see London still remaining very strong. But Spain, and particularly Portugal, which is even more interesting than Spain, going to make some inroads. and Portugal being sort of a little bit of a leader now, because you can get a passport, whereas in the other countries you only get a residency, which does make it a little bit more attractive from a South African point of view.
What about the values of these properties? And one reads sometimes in the British media about how resentful British people are about what's happened to property values in London because of the international demand. And they say that there are very few people who can afford to buy a decent residence in London. So I suppose there's a market operating here. Where is this market in a boom at the moment in Europe, or in places like Spain and London? Is there a bubble looming perhaps?
Yeah, I mean, I know they're talking about a bubble in London. They've been doing so for some time now. We don't see it. For us, it's a simple one of there's only so much land available in London. We operate in the Greater London area. We don't like operating outside of that. That's where our strength is. That's where we know and our partners are strong in. From a South African point of view, we've always looked at Southwest London. We call it affectionately the Biltong Belt, sort of Wandsworth, Putney area. Wimbledon has been a favourite for South Africans, and it continues to grow, and that growth has been underpinned by the very, very strong rental demand. So if we see the influx of people wanting to aspirationally going to live in London, move into London, it's going to fuel that market all the time. So we see London almost as an economy on its own, and therefore we certainly don't see it correcting in any while soon. So I think that market's still got a lot of legs, and as long as the rental demand stays up, you're going to find prices escalating. And yes, I do get it that the local folk in London saying, well, hang on, this market is supported, and some will say even fueled by international buyers into London, and therefore the prices are higher than they possibly could be. But that's the function of the success of the city, and people want to go to London.